So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted that we have with us Jag Panesar, who's director at Xpand Marketing. So firstly, Jag, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Xpand to the audience, that would be, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me, Chris. So I'm Jag. I'm the director of Xpand. We are a digital marketing agency. We're based in Saltaire in West Yorkshire, been going for 16 years. We offer the full spectrum to help businesses build their brand and generate return on investment, whether that's through creating marketing strategy, brand, web design and development, social media, PR, getting to the top of Google, all that kind of stuff, some or all of it. And it's all about the outcome really and the results, the kind of result. We tend to work primarily in the B2B arena, construction, manufacturing, B2B services, that kind of thing. And it's all about the result really. Examples include £290,000 worth of quote opportunities generated for an air conditioning installation outfit within a 12-month period, for £40,000 worth of sales generated through a £400 campaign spend within 48 hours, and all that kind of stuff. It's all about the stats, and that's the kind of stuff that we do.
Brilliant. Firstly, wow, there's some really great results there. And I have to say, I love a marketeer that talks about results and sales, because that ultimately what it's all about, isn't it? It's
absolutely. It's return on investment. That's what people want from anyone that's doing any kind of marketing.
Brilliant. 100%. We're definitely talking the same language. So thank you so much. And I say some great results. And if you maybe just start by talking a little bit about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one, Jag.
So I grew up around a fair few businesses. My father and his three brothers, they had a garage workshop, they had a van hire business, they had a shop fitting company. So that they were quite entrepreneurial, and there were various other businesses they were involved in. So as a kid, my father taught me the traditional work ethic. On weekends, I wasn't allowed to sleep in from the age of 8 or 9. He was getting me to go to the garage to sweep the yard on a Saturday morning. I absolutely hated it. I'd have to do the sandwich run, and I'm sure that's classed as child labor these days. And I didn't even get paid, actually, now I think about it. But I grew up around business and just observing, and I always knew I wanted to do a similar thing, but I never knew what. I always in my head thought, I'd love to come in and get involved in the garage one day. But we're a very traditional family, and there's 3-4 very powerful characters in there. And I thought, if I join the garage, I'm only ever going to be the tea boy for the rest of my life. So somewhere down the line, I knew I wanted to go into business very early on. And I didn't know what it was in, but I always had a real creative streak, and I knew that marketing, I didn't really know what marketing was. But I ended up kind of doing, my GCSEs in business and A-level and HND and degree and Chartered Institute of Marketing. And I just kind of fell into it really. And then I struggled to get a job when I came out of university, as most people do. So I pretty much started at the bottom and worked my way up from being a sales guy in a small manufacturing company, and kind of worked my way up to marketing manager. And then the company, I was made redundant, the company went bust. So I set up Xpand when I was 27. And that was the last 16 years of my life.
Wow. Fantastic. So, as a boy, did you have any other sort of dreams about what you might do?
I think I probably wanted to be a rock star. Hence the guitar behind me. But other than that, no, I think I've always had a creative streak, always a bit of a dreamer. I was really into the arts and movies, and a bit of a sci-fi nerd. So I think the music side of things were definitely kind of thing that was there. But I was, again, my parents being very, traditional, classic work ethic. They wanted to push me into the business side of things rather than art. So I had to make a decision one day when it came to my GCSEs, and it was I could do GCSE art or I could do GCSE business. I couldn't do both because they clashed.
Yep.
And I chose art, and my dad said, "No, I really think you should do business." And I said, "No, I'm going to stick to my guns, and I want to do art because I like it." And, we had a big discussion about it, not an argument, a big discussion about it on the night before I handed it in. I stuck to my guns. And on the next day, on the very last minute, just before I handed the form in, I must have just, I don't know what happened. I got a sense of guilt. I thought, no, my dad said he wants me to do this. So I crossed out art and I chose business. And that was one of those, I must have been, what, 12, 13? I don't know how old I
Wow.
would have been. And that was that crossroad dictated the rest of my, working life
Yes.
where I ended up. It's so funny how these things come together.
It's sometimes just those tiny not tiny, but a single decision can
Yeah.
left or right, isn't it? It's literally
Yeah.
you're young. And I mean, just looking back over the last 16 years, what would you say some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome in your
Oh,
business?
bloody hell. Where do you start with something like this? I think, when you start out on your own, what you don't, I studied, like I say, I studied business for 7 years from, GCSE through to Chartered Institute of Marketing level. And I thought I was prepared for it. But then I stepped into business and I thought, wow, what is this? You can learn a theory of it, but nothing will prepare you until you get into it and the practice of it. And that's the benefit of experience. And I think, the biggest issues I think for me was just learning how to do it all. It was, okay,
Yes.
well, you have to be the finance person, you have to be the HR person, you have to be the sales operations, you have to be the cleaner, you have to be you have to be everything. You have to be absolutely everything in the business. But
Yes.
then ironically, on the contrary, the other issue that I faced was learning that I can't do it all. Somewhere down the line, it's like, okay, I know how to do the bookkeeping. I understand how the accounts work. I figured out all the HR stuff. Why do I need to pay a HR consultant? Why do I need to get someone to do my payroll? But the reality is I was using my time on stuff that I'm not a specialist at, and just losing money, but I didn't see it that way. So the next big issue was just getting over that hurdle of I cannot do it all.
Yes.
Stick to the thing that I'm good at and outsource it. And rather than seeing it as money going out, seeing it as value being added to the business and allowing me to push further. And that was a big learning curve. It was a big learning curve.
It's a really interesting thing, isn't it? I always say, as a business grows, traditional sort of hockey stick growth is that those first stages, that sort of establishment and survival phase. You have to do everything. We have to, we have to cut every cost. Every decision could be the last. It's quite a fearful time, isn't it? And it's really hard being a business owner because as we start to grow, we do have to change quite fundamentally our mindset from I'll do it all because that I'm the only person here, or we and I say to a lot of people, we get to a certain level of business success with a few good people and sheer blood and guts, just really work really hard. But once we're maxed out on time, we will limit the business growth because there's no more time to give if growth is dependent on time. But it's such a hard lesson to learn because to get to here, I've had to do that.
Yeah, and time is the most valuable resource we have.
Yeah.
And when you go into business, you might think, oh no, it's money that's the most valuable resource. But like you said, when you're maxed out on time, that's when it's like, okay, I need to now think about how I'm using my time and who else uses their time to do this thing for me, so I can therefore be more profitable and make more money. But it's the time, it's the one thing that it's ticking away. We're all limited on it. Just to put
Absolutely.
a nice grim angle on the conversation.
Well, no, but it's an important lesson to learn, and
it is.
We often say to people, when we've run out of money, we can always make some more. But once we spent our money, we can always make some more. But once we spent our time, it's gone forever. So how we spend our time is more important than how we spend our money in many cases, and it's that effective use that's so key. So over through those challenges and through these 16 years, what would you say the biggest things you've learned about business in general?
I would say, well, when you go into business, you become the master of your own destiny. You're no longer in this structure of this organization you've worked in and this hierarchy and getting appraisals. And, you can basically achieve anything that you want. The sky is the absolute limit. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's really kind of come to me. But I think also knowing where that limit is as well. If you're permanently chasing money, Money is numbers, and numbers go on forever. They go on for infinity. If you're looking for happiness in numbers, in money, money goes on forever. You're never going to be happy. You have to know where that contentment lies, and know that, just looking at all the people around you on social media and thinking, oh, look at them, they're doing so well. I need to do better. I need to do better. But the reality is on social media, people, will generally only talk about the good stuff. Some people talk about the not so good stuff as well, which is really powerful, good, useful stuff. But I think just knowing you can achieve anything, but just knowing where the limit is and where that contentment is, because if you don't know where that is, you will never be content. And I think that's not just a learning in business, that's a learning in life as well. So it's all very philosophical. I think that for me is just something that's really, especially in the last few years, come to life. It's probably a sign of a midlife crisis, really.
It's interesting. I remember a friend of mine talking about, and we were talking about being driven and driven people and stuff, and he said it's being driven is really useful and valuable, especially to a certain level. He said, but ultimately, I want to be a driver.
Yeah.
And it was because then I'm steering it. I'm not being driven by other external things. And I was really interested, and it took me a while to sort of come to terms with that. But I think it's really, it's like, this is all I need. This is it. This is enough. This is contentment. And if you're driven people, it is difficult because it's what's next, isn't it? What's next? What's next?
Yeah. Well, there's a great saying I absolutely love. It goes something like, with a little bit of talent and a lot of drive, you can move mountains. And in business, it's so true. You do not have to be the most talented person in the room. It's the drive. It's just the belief to right. This is a thing that I want to do. Having the vision, and then just keep pushing forward, and just don't give up, and just keep on punching. You do not have to be, Stephen Hawking. You don't have to be a doctor in rocket science or whatever to succeed in business. It's about the drive.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. I often say to people, that obviously we teach and coach people to grow businesses, and I say, look, nothing we're going to do is rocket science. It is simple stuff that works. And I say, and that's enough to get you to a point where if you want to do rocket science, you can hire some rocket scientists, but we ain't going to be doing any of that, because that's, it's simple stuff you work. It's, as you said at the start, it's, measuring the results of a marketing. That's simple stuff that many people don't. So, and therefore they don't know, what's working, what's not. So I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who are the best coaches you've ever worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general.
I think, well, probably two answers to that. I think the first one was probably subconscious coaching, like I say, just growing up around my family and just observing them. I'm a very observant person. I think it's just something that just comes naturally to me to be able to learn around the people around me. So just seeing the, the good things that they did, the mistakes that they made. Everyone makes mistakes. Hearing occasional conversations of, one of my uncles saying, oh, I wish we were back at this, back in our old building. It was a lot smaller. The business wasn't as big, but we were making a lot more profit. And that kind of is part of my mindset of, it's good to grow, but you can push a little bit too hard and your overheads increase. And it doesn't mean you're making more profit. You might look bigger, but, obviously everything isn't about profit, but it's about comfort. So I think for me, there was that observation, probably subconscious mentoring or modeling or whatever you want to call it. So I give a lot of credit to my family in that respect, my dad and his brothers. And then another coach, I do have a business coach, a chap called Andy Hartley. He's been working with myself and my two heads of department. He's been working with me for the last 7 years, and he coaches those guys as well for the last 2 years or so. And it's great. And he's a coach in its truest sense. He never gives me an answer, which I find really frustrating. He always makes me get the answer myself. And sometimes I'm just like, just give me the answer. But that isn't coaching. I have to find it myself. And there's been things that he's been, saying to me over the last maybe 5 years ago. He might have said stuff, but I can only really embrace that when I'm doing it, when I take it on myself. And there's times when I said, right, Andy, I'm doing this thing now and it's brilliant. And I wish I'd have done it 5 years ago. And he says, oh, funny that. I did mention that to you 5 years ago. Do you remember? And I'm like, yeah. But that's just the journey. You can't be forced to do something. You have to do that thing when you're ready for it. And when the penny drops, that's when it'll happen.
Brilliant. I mean, that's a great, description of coaching for me. It's about, I was told when I was first trained as a coach that the word education comes from the Latin educare, which means to draw out.
Okay.
Which I found really fascinating, because traditional education, from my perspective, is pushing in, isn't it? It's just telling kids and teenagers, lots of information, whereas drawing out is very much, we've probably we've got most of the answers inside us, and it's just the art of helping people find their way, because we find our way, we're going to follow our way.
I love that. That's a great pub fact as well. I'm going to use that one tonight.
Cool. Yeah, please research. There's lots of things I think I learned that I'm not. I think I did check that one eventually, but
I'll Google it first.
I'm not one for checking facts in general. I'm a bit like that. I took the route. I think it was Brian Tracy many years ago. There was a study that a lot of people refer to about how, I think it was at the Harvard Business School 1952 class. They all wrote very clear goals and a plan to deliver the goals for 25 years, 25-year plan of where they were going to be. And they brought 25 years later, they got them all back together and said, right, where are you compared to the plans that you've written? And it turned out, I think 3% of the class owned about 95% of the wealth. Wow. And those are 3% that had kept their goals and a plan up to date, and they followed it, etc. Now, a lot of people will quote that. It's not actually true, but but I think a guy called Brian, I remember Brian Tracy, I think when he was told it, he said, well, if it isn't true, it should be. So it doesn't really matter. It's still a very relevant story. So I don't think I've searched that one up either, but yeah. But no, I'm pretty sure the education one is true, but it is very much, I think, drawing out. So yeah. You mentioned one of your favourite sort of quotes and sayings. Do you have any other that you fall back on a regular basis?
Well, yeah, no, that is definitely my favorite quote, and I don't actually know who said that. I can only attribute this to Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Yeah. I'm not into wrestling. I don't really watch his movies, but I just saw one of those, a picture of him, all muscular, arms crossed or whatever. But I don't think it was him that said it, but it doesn't matter who said it. It is so true. And then another one, probably the real hippie in me. I really love Gandhi's saying, if we all believed in an eye for an eye, the whole world would go blind. And I think, for me, and I know that's not necessarily business related, but it absolutely can be, because business is run by people. And, one of our core values at Xpand is do good things, right. Just do good things, look after the people around you. And, sometimes just smiling at a stranger in the street can make their day. And just do good things, do things for the community, give back. And I'm a firm believer in good things coming back to you. The universe will work. A great example, every year we collect Easter eggs as part of an initiative called the JCI Easter Egg Appeal, and we live in the Bradford area, so it's junior. So they collect Easter eggs for disadvantaged children in the Bradford area. So we always pledge to collect 30, 40, 50 or whatever. And we always get loads of donations, and they go to charity. We do the same thing at Christmas, a Secret Santa appeal, and it goes to disadvantaged kids for lovely gifts. Wonderful. And about, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, I put the message out there. One of my school friends that I hadn't met for about 11 or 12, since we were about 11 or 12, messaged me saying, Jag, what's this Easter egg appeal thing you're doing? I explained it, and he said, okay, well, I work at Lindt Chocolate, so I'll arrange to have some stuff sent to you. And I said, brilliant, thanks for that, Adrian. Turns out he was at the time the chief finance officer of Lindt UK, and he said, "Oh, by the way, we need a bit of work doing. Would you like to have a chat?" And I said, "All right then, if you really must." And we had a chat, and off the back of that, one of our flagship clients, the biggest names that people recognise, is Lindt Chocolate that we've worked with, and it came from us just doing a charity initiative. And this, I hadn't spoken to Adrian since we were about 12 years old, and we must have seen it on Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that. So just do good things, and good things will come back to you. I'm a firm believer in that.
Love it, absolutely love it, and I completely agree. And I think your point about the eye for the eye in business is, a lot of people focus on competition rather than collaboration, and we don't need to beat our competitors. We just need to be the best.
And that is such a valuable point now from a classic marketer's perspective. You know, they say, take a look at everything that your competition are doing and keep a close eye on them and understand everything they're doing. And that's a really important thing to do. But, and, you know, as part of strategies, we do a lot of competitor analysis. But I think as a business owner, it's so easy to get bogged down with, oh my God, they're doing this and I'm not doing that. And they look great and I'm not great. The reality is when you look behind the shiny facade of whatever's going on, you know, marketing is always about puffing your chest out and looking a bit bigger than you actually are. What I tend to do is actually, all right, I'm definitely aware of my competition, but I just kind of like to kind of keep a bit of a tunnel vision and just stay focused, using my brain energy on the thing that I'm doing and just do that really well. But just, you know, keep a little bit of an eye on what they're doing, because if I'm focusing too much on them, I'm giving them energy for no reason. And I need to keep the energy within what I'm doing. And you're absolutely right about collaboration. Up until a few years ago, I wasn't really fully open to collaboration. And now, you know, anyone, even people that do exactly the same thing as us, I'll always say, if there's any way we can collaborate, let's talk, because, you know, we can all grow together. With digital marketing, it's a sector we're really actually only at the dawn of what it's capable of.
Yes.
So that, you know, it's a growing industry. So you know, collaboration is such a huge thing. I think
it's bang on. Our vision actually as an organisation is world abundance through business re-education, and the abundant part is there's more than enough for everyone. Therefore, let's work on how we can work together rather than having to try. You know, whereas economics is it's not the study; it's the allocation of scarce resources. It's literally economics itself believes there isn't enough, you know, there isn't enough, therefore we have to. And so it's really interesting. So yeah, I think that abundant mindset, look, there's loads. And you combine that with, you know, doing great things. And I think, you know, that it's a great place to be, both personally, professionally, and as a business.
Absolutely.
So what would you say you've learned about yourself over these last 16 years?
I think kind of the real one that always stands out in my mind is I know more than I realize. Kind of take for granted my own knowledge, because I was talking about tunnel vision just a moment ago. Sometimes I probably get a bit too tunnel visioned in my own knowledge, and I kind of take for granted when I'm talking about some stuff, and people say, "Oh right, wow, I didn't know that." And to me, that's just foundation knowledge, because obviously that's where I've trained and that's where my experience is. And sometimes I forget that. And I think that's an important thing for everyone, really. You know, just don't take your own knowledge for granted, because that's where, you know, your real value comes in. And yeah, I think that's probably an important one. And I think lockdown definitely taught me this, that I am way more resilient than I think I am. Maybe it's because, you know, up to lockdown, I've been in business for 12, 13 years. The first 3 weeks of lockdown were definitely, well, the whole of lockdown was hard for a lot of people. For us, the first 2-3 weeks, that uncertainty was terrible for everyone. But then, fortunately, digital marketing was a sector that really grew during lockdown. And, you know, I really learned in that 2-3 week period. You know, I remember distinctly the first, even before official lockdown kicked in, I remember the date, it was the 17th of March, 2020. And Boris Johnson half announced, "Oh, if you can work from home, if not, then you know, it was all a bit wishy-washy." And the next day, I had clients calling me cancelling contracts, and I thought, well, "Wow, this is it. That's it. My business is going to collapse. Everyone's going to cancel. I've got I've got kids and mortgages to pay. I'm gonna have to close. The business is going to cease to exist." And I thought, "Wow." Then I thought, actually, you know what? 13 years, I'm not letting this go. And we knuckled down. And even in that 3 weeks of uncertainty, you know, everyone pulled together and we just trooped on forwards. And I think resilience I really learned. And now, you know, there's obviously all the situation, cost of living crisis and recession. And, you know, there's very worrying times. But on the same hand, with the right mindset, you just got to, I suppose, keep that tunnel vision, just block out all the negative stuff, be aware of the threats, but just keep on pushing forward, because there is always a way to move forward, even if you have to, dare I use the phrase, pivot. You know, it's something that was massively overused during lockdown.
It definitely
you know,
was.
If you have to diversify and adjust, you know, with the transferable skill sets that we've all got, you can. It's anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Absolutely. It's that flexibility of mind, isn't it? It described it really well for many, many business people, I think, you know, including ourselves. It was like, you just don't know what's next. And, you know, if humans have a natural fear of the unknown. It's to different degrees of different people, but it's one of the sort of very common fears. If I don't know, I'm going to choose to assume it's going to be bad, and that was a massive point of unknown at that point.
Yeah.
So looking forward a bit more, what does the future look like for you guys, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward, if any?
Well, the future for us, I'm kind of creating a structure around the business now where it's less dependent on me. I've been doing this for 16 years or so. So I'm kind of ready. I'm not retiring or selling or anything like that. But I'm thinking, right, I want it to be more self-sustaining so I can, work like a normal 9 to 5 rather than 60 hours a week. I haven't done stupid hours for quite some time now. But yeah, I think right now it's all about building the brand for the team and investing in the team and, getting them to be, really involved, and they're really kind of embracing it. Like I say, from a growth perspective, there's so much opportunity in the future. In terms of, as an overview, I mean, the change in technology right now in our arena is so exciting. When you think of artificial intelligence and the likes of ChatGPT, it created quite a kerfuffle a month or two ago when it came out, and there was a bit of panic from our industry of, oh my god, we're going to be out of jobs. But I didn't think that was the case from the outset. I thought actually this is something that we can use as a stepping stone to become even more efficient. It isn't intelligent enough yet to do our jobs, but who knows what's going to happen in 5 years' time. And I firmly believe what's going to happen, the rate that the technology is moving at right now is going to create quite a huge displacement, because you've got a generation of people that are, say, mid 40s to 60, let's say, who are, director, senior level management, whether it's corporate or SME. These are people that did not grow up with technology. There might have been one computer in the whole school. So, and there is a fear as a part of that from the type of technology that is coming into place. So I think one of the biggest challenges, but one of the biggest opportunities, depending on how you look at it, for an opportunity for an industry like ours, is actually embracing that, because the companies that adapt quickly are the ones that are really going to move forward. But the ones that are afraid of it and don't adapt quickly enough are the ones that are going to need the most help to actually get this technology into the business and to be able to use all this AI and amazing stuff to actually make them more efficient and get the systems in place and just get them operating to the best possible efficiency. So that's from an industry perspective, I think, and even from our business's perspective, there's so much opportunity to embrace that. Because I could just see the gap it's already there now, and it's just going to get bigger because the rate it's moving at is amazing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's great. It's really interesting to do that, because it's I personally need to know and learn a lot more, and it's, as you say, it's the embracing of it that's really key, isn't it? We've had so many advances over the last sort of 10, 20, 30 years in many things, and it's another one of those. It doesn't, but it's how we adapt and adopt. But as you say, if we don't adapt and adopt, then we're probably going to be screwed. So,
and even for me, we're a digital agency, but there's so many facets to things that are going on. I can't know every last part of the latest algorithm update, the latest thing that Instagram is doing, the latest LinkedIn update, and that's what all the individual team members bring in. And I think naturally, I'm definitely not, over the hill, at 43, but there's a generation that just naturally adapt to this so much quicker because they've grown up with iPhones in their hands, so they just use this technology so much faster. And I recognize where for me, I have to focus on being a business leader, so I just rely on these guys to provide I just put the right tools in front of them, the right learning opportunities for them to feed that information to me, and then I just refer that to them if a client ever needs it. So there's ways that you can kind of get around that as well.
Brilliant, wonderful. Yeah, I guess it's watch this space, isn't it? It really, as you said, right at the start of using it. So what would be your advice to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Jag?
Well, I think I've kind of said, going back to the Dwayne Johnson quote, with a bit of talent and a lot of drive, you can absolutely do anything you want. What I would say is, do not give up. It's so easy to get bogged down. When you step into that first step, that first year is an absolute baptism of fire. It's an absolute shock to the system. And I think anyone who's taken that step, well done to you, because taking that first step into the unknown, because that's what it is. It's a blank canvas. It's a really big deal. And I think, I always remember this moment, maybe a year or two in, and I thought, this isn't working. I'm not earning the right amount of money. I could have been earning more being employed. And, maybe it's time for me to give up. And it wasn't an easy thought to think that. And I thought, right, okay, well, let me go through the process of what I have to do. Right, well, I'll have to write my CV. I'll have to start applying for jobs. I've got a handful of clients. I don't want to let them down, so I have to figure out. But I thought, hang on a minute. I'm helping these guys build their brand and do loads of stuff for them, but I'm not doing it for myself.
Yes.
And I feel like that was a moment of realization. I always remember that. That was a real fist in the air, X Factor key change moment. It was one of those, I can do this. And I always remember that because, you're going to have the highs and the lows, but you just always got to keep that mindset of just keep on trucking, keep on punching, just do not give up. And I think the other thing I would say is it's okay to make mistakes, because that's where the best learning comes from. Like we talked about the fear of the unknown. Is the fear of doing it wrong, but the reality is you're going to make mistakes, and that's where some of the best learning is going to come from. And then probably the most practical bit of advice I could give is find a good accountant and listen to them, because people used to say that to me, and I was like, yeah, it's fine, Dory, I understand finance, I understand accounts, but there's a difference between someone who just does statutory accounts and someone that gives you really good advice and that you gel well with. And you might think, oh my God, I can't afford to pay this amount of money per month and management accounts and whatever else. But if it's the right person and it's an investment, this company will support you in going the long way. So that's really is a really important bit of advice I wish I'd have taken myself years ago.
Brilliant. And very relevant. Yeah, I completely agree. There's a big difference between just the compliance side and actual proper advice. Because we're not taught this stuff. I mean, business studies now is a lot better. He has been developed, and my daughter's been through it, and there's some really good stuff in it. But you go back 10, 15, 20 years, it was fairly basic learning on business, and there wasn't as much practical learning as there is now. So we're not taught this stuff. So it's important we seek help. And if you started again, is there anything you do differently, do you think?
I would probably be more open to collaboration in the early days. I had this mindset of, like I say, I could have very easily stepped into the family business.
Yes.
But I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to do this myself. My family, my grandfather came to England from India in the early 60s to search for a better life for his family. So they came here in pretty much poverty. They grew from absolutely nothing, and they did really well for themselves. And, they were able to provide myself and my brothers and sisters and my cousins and whatnot. We all had a really good upbringing. We weren't millionaires, but, really comfortable upbringing. But what I thought in my head, I want to not replicate that. I want to do what they did. I want to do it myself and create something from scratch. And the downside of that mindset was I was too closed in. I thought, no, I will do it myself. Going back to no, I can do the finance stuff myself. I can do this. But that also was about collaboration. I wasn't open to collaborating with people in my industry. Yes. And I opened up to that. And when it really came into play was during lockdown, because we needed to grow. And, hiring people and trying to get them, blended into the culture and all that stuff while we're all sat in our bedrooms working. I thought, okay, right. So I reached out to my network of people that I got to know really well. And that collaboration has just opened up so many different ways of doing things and brought in new skill sets. So that's probably the one major thing I would change, is just be more open to collaboration. These people are not a threat to you. These people, if you've got the right mindset, they will support your growth, and you'll learn a lot from them as well.
100%. And I often say good relationships come with a match of goals. We want to achieve the same thing, but great relationships come with a match of values. We both believe the same thing is important. If you find people with the same values, then collaboration really, really works, because you both think the same, and therefore it's very unlikely anything will go become competitive or any challenge. And just looking back for yourself, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you were able to go back in time and do so?
I think that's a good one. I mean, when you're 18, the reality is you're still pretty much a kid, even though you're technically an adult.
I know.
Maybe because I'm 43, I'm saying that now, but you're only just really learning about the world.
Yeah.
I think for me, the advice I'd give to myself is, the world's your oyster. Don't let anybody put you in a box, because I'd already pre-formed this idea of going into business, and because of that, I almost gave up my kind of creative side. Like I play guitar now, I play in a band, and I'm quite into a lot of creative things, and I rediscovered that years later. But because I kind of boxed myself into that area, there were a lot of benefits to it because it helped me get to where I am now. But the reality is there's a million and one things I could have done. And yeah, I would say, what, just have this goal of setting up the business, but just go out and do all kinds of stuff, discover. Who knows what else you could discover? And that's just the enjoyment of life, really, just experiencing new things.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Jay, it's been really delightful and really interesting talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If anyone's interested in that's watching the interesting content in you or Xpand, what would be the best way to do so?
You can visit our website, which is xpandmarketing.co.uk. That's spelled with an X. There's no E at the beginning. So yeah, have a look at the website. You can contact us via our contact form. We've got loads of free webinars on there that we've done, loads of information and resources, loads of examples of kind of work that we've done. So yeah, please do visit the website.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again, and maybe it'd be good to catch up in another 6-12 months and see where the journey's taking you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thank you.